say every palace battle has 3 layers. Yes. The one people see, the one people hear, and the one only heaven understands. Queen Naomi's return to the palace has moved beyond whispers. It has entered the realm where kings, prophets, priestesses, elders, and invisible forces converge. And if there's one woman whose footsteps do not echo, but whose presence shifts the ground, it is Reverend Esther Ajayi. I'm sure this name resonates very well with a lot of you people. A mother in Zion, a friend of palaces, an intercessor to kings, a spiritual diplomat whose prayers have influenced empires. She is the woman Ooni Of Ife calls mommy, the woman Queen Naomi calls destiny midwife, and the woman palace insiders allegedly refer to as the incense bearer. Because wherever she kneels, things begin to move. Yes, you heard me well. When Queen Naomi walked away from the palace, wounded yet dignified, there were 2 people who kept calling. Yes, they kept calling and calling. Her mother and Reverend Esther Ajayi. And don't forget, for those of you who have followed the palace story so well, you will realize that Esther Jay has been a very close ally of Ooni Of Ife and like a godmother of some sort to Queen Naomi. You know, that is the kind of bond, that is the kind of relationship that she shares with both of them. So she has always been there. Most time we don't get to talk about her. It doesn't mean she stopped partaking in trying to resolve the almost intractable differences between these 2 people. She has always remained, in at the background, doing her stuff, doing her prayer, doing her intercession. And she does all this not with gossip, not with pressure, but with prophetic warnings. And in one of those prophetic warnings, she said, do not fight flesh and blood. Your story is not finished. That is what she was alleged to have told Queen Naomi some time ago. I will repeat. She said, do not fight flesh and blood. Your story is not finished. She said this long time ago to Queen Naomi. Reverend Esther Ajayi allegedly told her, royal crowns do not fall into dust. They are retrieved in silence. And so, behind the scenes, she interceded. She prayed. She convened counsel. Don't forget, she had prayed with Queen Naomi on multiple occasions. And I think you sincerely did something on that in the past. Okay? She kept communication alive between Ooni Of Ife and Queen Naomi, even when pride wanted to shut the door. Yes, now, there was a time that it was looking like pride was entering this whole thing. And it was looking like, look, they were going to have more serious issues. But even at that time, we are told that Reverend Esther Ajayi never gave up on these 2 people. Okay? And don't forget, there were private visits elders did not talk about. Yes, so there are rumors, heavy ones for that matter, that there were meetings, few people knew about. Not in palaces, not in Zoom rooms or Zoom calls, but in prayer rooms, well coordinated by the respected Reverend Esther Ajayi. 3 times, insiders say, Ooni Of Ife and Queen Naomi allegedly met at the prompting of this great woman of God. Not for reconciliation speeches, but for prophetic instructions. Because destiny marriage is never ordinary. So let's look at how Esther Ajayi has saved this royal spiritual war. Let's even look at that. We all saw the public storms. Yes, now, the public storms were everywhere. Like everywhere. The media battles, the palace resistance, the shouting factions, everything was out there in the social media space. And you all witnessed it right? Sorry about that horn again. I don't know what is happening today. They don't want me to make this story. And see, even if 20 cars begin to have horn issues, I must do this story, okay? Nothing is going to stop it. So like I said, but sorry about that all the same. Like I said, we all saw the public storms all over the place. The media battles, it was all over the place. The palace resistance, the shouting factions. What we did not see was what elders feared the most, a spiritual division between the throne and covenant. There were forces who wanted Queen Naomi permanently erased. Yes, now, if you follow what happened, the build-up to the disaster that happened last December, you will see that the intention, the plan was to erase or to cancel this woman. But you see, God passed all of them. And like they say what God cannot do does not exist. So God kept being on the side of Queen Naomi, especially with spiritual fortresses like that of Rev Esther Ajayi. So there were political players, wives, chiefs, lobbyists, and spiritual contractors whose survival depended on Queen Naomi's not returning to the palace. This thing I said now, yes, I mean it. I said there were a lot of political players. There were a lot of wives in there, a lot of chiefs, a lot of lobbyists and spiritual contractors whose survival depended on Queen Naomi not returning back to the palace. And that was why you see it was an amalgamation of forces against this woman of God. From everywhere, left, right, center, everywhere. It was a battle, more of spiritual battle anyway. So that is why the intercession of Reverend Esther Ajayi is so important right now. Do you know what elders fear most? A woman whose destiny can neither be bribed nor intimidated. Because that's who Queen Naomi is. You can never bribe or intimidate her. Naomi is that one woman. Yes. And Reverend Esther Ajayi understood that destinies like that attract warfare. Yes, now. So she became the intercessory firewall, the oil that quenched fires before they grew so big. That's what she has been. And there's that final day that Ooni Of Ife was said to have finally listened. There is a story palace insiders are whispering or have whispered. A certain moment when Ooni Of Ife was advised to move on permanently. Yes, now. I told you guys that there was a time that it was looking like Ooni Of Ife has actually moved on. He was becoming like a bit nonchalant towards Queen Naomi's issues, And you guys saw it now because you guys know this story more than me. It was looking like the man not sent Queen Naomi, okay, because of certain things that were happening, okay? So they said at that time, some forces, they were advising him to just move on permanently, that will be Queen Naomi, leave him, and stuff like that. But those are people who have just ordinary eyes. They can't see more than they can see. So until Mama, Reverend Esther Ajayi allegedly told him, your heart knows where your crown rests. That is what, at that time, people were advising him, giving him that wrong counsel. He told him, your heart knows where your crown rests. Bend before God and rise before men. That was the counsel Reverend Esther Ajayi was said to have given our dear KBC at that time. Shortly after that Reverend Esther Ajayi counsel, that advice, the rituals began. Don't forget that these rituals were many, so many of them, small time. From one to the other, it was looking like one sort of a charade at some stage. People got tired from one ritual to the other, from this one to the other, including up to when we climaxed on the 29th of November with that successful completion of Arende, the cleansing, the reconciliation signs, and finally, that was it. The prophetic declaration over Tadenikao, where Naomi's voice was clearly heard in the background. In fact, it was after the successful consummation of that of Faraday that we immediately saw that prophetic declaration that Ooni Of Ife made over Tadenikao, where, like I said, you could hear the voice of Queen Naomi at the background. So it was just pure vibe, pure vibe For those of you who have watched that video, and is this a coincidence that on the 29th that the offering day was completed, is that same day Ooni of Ife was doing that with his son publicly? It can't be coincidence. Or is it evidence that someone was stinching hearts in private while the world assumed chaos? It's not possible. Okay, now let's look at the involvement of Rev Esther Ajayi and how instructive and very, very important to the whole equation. Because for me, I think Rev Esther Ajayi is something else. She's just more than a mother. Because this narrative is now bigger than husband and wife. This is about lineage continuation, identity, heritage, Yoruba spiritual symbolism, and the restoration of a covenant family. And destiny marriages often require spiritual midwife, someone who fights battles the couple never sees. This is why Reverend Esther Ajayi matters a lot in this whole equation. She is the woman whose hands shape the unseen. Yes, palace resistance has not ended completely. Some queens right now are feeling very threatened, and that is obvious. Political players feel displaced, that is obvious. Court influencers feel shut out. But something has shifted. Yes, something has shifted. The king's heart, Queen Naomi's peace, and God's timing have aligned right now. And Reverend Esther Ajayi, she is smiling like someone watching a prophecy unfold. Don't forget, in Yoruba land, there is a proverb that says, when destiny remembers a person, even delayed drums beat again. Yes, you heard it well. Queen Naomi's drum is beating right now, and the silent hands beating it are spiritual. A mother of nations, a destiny dollar, a woman called Reverend Esther Ajayi. Because sometimes kings return to love through warriors you never see. Yes. And I don't want to make this video too long. Maybe at this point, okay? Let me just end with this. Where God writes stories, no enemy's ink can edit it. Did you get that? Where God writes stories, no enemy's ink can ever edit it. So what do you think about the story that is unfolding at this time concerning Reverend Esther Ajayi's intercessory activities? Please feel free to go to the comment section to leave your thoughts right there, and hopefully yours sincerely will meet you right there to expand or to take this conversation much further. God bless you. I'll be right back. Bye-bye.